We've got Kurt Bardella, host of Kurt's Country, and Mick Mulvaney, who was White House Chief of Staff for former President Trump. Good morning to both of you. Kurt, I'll start with you. Did Kamala Harris meet the moment with this interview?
Yeah, if the worst thing that your political opponent has to say about an interview that was dubbed by everyone in the press as high stakes, that it's boring, and that's the critique, not any substance of the interview, not on the answers, not on the responses, not on the policy, but just the style of it. I mean, we've been having this debate about policy versus personality, about substance versus fluff. And the main rival here leads with a personality style critique versus a policy. Every Republican strategist, every time we are on the set of the Hill with Mick Mulvaney and people like Aaron Perini, they're saying we wish the president would focus more on the policies, the areas where Kamala Harris might be more vulnerable. And all he can do is go out there and just say, boring. Okay, we'll live with that. If you're Kamala Harris, you're totally fine with that response.
Nick, what do you think?
There was nothing on policy. Do I wish that Trump's response to it had focused on policy? Sure, but face it, if you went into that interview, and I'm curious to ask Kurt, what is she going to do on day one? It's a straightforward question. Every candidate for president gets it. What would you do on day one? And after half an hour of interview, we don't know the answer. She wants to do something on the earned income tax credit you can't do on day one. She wants to help the middle class. Okay, how are you going to do that? It was woefully short on policy. But again, to Kurt's point, I think that's what the Democrats are counting on. They don't want the race to be about policy. They want it to be a short sprint to the election about personality. Last night was about whether or not she looked presidential, acted presidential, sounded presidential. It certainly wasn't about policy. So as someone who is interested in policy, a Republican, I came away scratching my head, not knowing any more than I did before I watched it.
I guess, going into this, I was chatting with Leland Vittert yesterday, and he was saying that this was sort of high risk, low reward for Kamala Harris. Mick, did she hurt herself here?
It depends. Look, undecided voters are undecided for a reason. They don't pay attention. If she's trying to reach out to the middle, she's tacking to the middle. I was against fracking. Now I'm okay with fracking. I'm against the border wall. Now I'm for the border wall. To the extent that there are some undecided voters who care about policies, maybe she found a way to talk to some of them. But for the most part, I don't think it was a success. I don't think it was a failure. I can't believe it got all the attention. Keep in mind, when you run for president, you do interviews like this 4 or 5 times a day. But I don't think she ruined her campaign, nor do I think she won the election last night.
There was a key moment with the vice president addressing some of her policy reversals that we've been chatting about here, from fracking to action at the border. Let's listen to her response.
We have set goals for the United States of America and, by extension, the globe around when we should meet certain standards for reduction of greenhouse gas emissions, as an example. That value has not changed. My value around what we need to do to secure our border, that value has not changed.
That answer saying her values have not changed. Republicans, the Trump campaign, they're already latching onto it. Mick, I see you scratching your head. I'll get to you in a second. Let me bring Kurt into this conversation here. Kurt, how does this one play?
I actually agree with what Mick just said. If you came into this as an undecided voter, and I'm going to say, I don't think there are a whole lot of undecided voters watching CNN for an interview with either presidential candidate, frankly. I don't think that universe really exists. But if you came into this liking Donald Trump, you still like him. If you came in just liking Kamala Harris, you still like her. I think the values thing is interesting because the one thing that we know from all the polling that's been done is that an area of vulnerability for former President Trump is on trust, is on empathy, is on does Donald Trump or Kamala Harris care about voters like me? When you use words like values, that's what I think Kamala Harris is trying to speak to there and to play into that divide that's in her favor right now.
Mick, you were scratching your head after we played that. What's your reaction?
I was hoping my good friend would enlighten me as to what it means when she says, well, my values are the same, but I'm completely changing how I want to put those into place. That makes no sense to me. I think Kurt might be right, but I'm going to be cynical about it, which is they said, look, we need you to say the word values 6 times tonight. And she was looking for the opportunity to do that, or at least to try and sort of distract from the actual policy change. I was for banning fracking. Now I'm against it. How do you want to handle that? Just say the word values. She said it 5 or 6 times. I still have no clue what it means whatsoever. I'm hoping Kurt can enlighten me. Maybe he'll do that between now and the 8 o'clock hit.
Okay, Kurt Bardella, Mick Mulvaney, some fighting words here early in the morning on Morning in America.
No, it's all friends and fun with me and Mick.
Yeah, there's no fighting.
If Mick is scratching his head, then Kamala Harris did her job.
Always appreciate the lively conversation with the two of you. Thanks for joining us on a Friday morning. Thanks so much.